My name is Commander Arlen Vex, Orbital Operations Officer, 5th Fleet, Human Coalition Forces. I've been in command of bombardment protocols for 8 months now. 8 months of watching worlds burn from a safe distance. 8 months of following orders without question. They tell me that makes me a good soldier. I'm starting to think it makes me something else. Through the viewport of my command station, Serath 4 burns. Not with the clean fire you see in training simulations. Real fire. The kind that turns cities into molten scars. The kind that makes the atmosphere glow red for days after impact. Beautiful in a way, like watching a sunset that never ends. Except it's not a sunset. It's genocide with official authorization. The planet used to be lush, green continents, blue oceans. I've seen the reconnaissance images from before the war, before the Rethari refused to surrender their territory, before Command decided that negotiation was weakness and total annihilation was strategic necessity. Now, Serath 4 looks like what hell would look like if hell had an atmosphere. Target Delta 7 confirmed neutralized, Lieutenant Chen reports from the targeting station. His voice is flat, professional, like he's reading a grocery list instead of confirming we just killed another 10,000 people. Acknowledged, I say. Proceed to target Delta 8 on my mark. I don't look at the screen when I give the order. Haven't in weeks. Easier that way. Just watch the tactical display. The neat little icons that represent cities, military installations, population centers. They turn from red to gray when we destroy them. Clean, simple, abstract, not real. Except they are real. I know they are. And somewhere beneath that professional numbness, I can feel the weight of it pressing down on my chest, like I'm drowning in vacuum. Commander? Chen is waiting. Mark, I say. Another icon turns grey. Another city dies. I wrote it in my log. Target eliminated, objectives achieved, resistance minimal. All the language we use to avoid saying what we're actually doing. We're burning people alive from orbit because they refused to give us their planet. But we don't say that in reports. We say strategic neutralization and collateral necessity and acceptable losses. We say a lot of things to avoid telling the truth. The ground sweep came 3 days later. Command wanted intelligence on the remaining Rethari communication networks. Wanted to know if there were hidden facilities. Wanted to squeeze every last drop of tactical advantage before we glassed the planet completely. I watched the sweep team's camera feeds from my station, watched them pick through ruins that used to be a city called Varath. Population, 3 million. Now population, unknown. Probably 0. The buildings were still standing, mostly, but they were empty, burned out. The orbital strikes had been precise enough not to completely level the infrastructure, but hot enough to kill everything inside. Thermal signatures detected. One of the sweep teams reported. Sector 9, possible survivors. My hands went cold on the console. Survivors meant complications. Survivors meant decisions I didn't want to make. Investigate and report, I ordered. They found her in the ruins of a communications station, buried under rubble that had somehow shielded her from the worst of the heat. Wounded, barely conscious, but alive. The camera feed showed me her face for the first time. Rethari physiology was different from humans. Taller, more angular, skin that shifted between grey and pale blue depending on light and stress. Eyes that were too large, too expressive, too human despite belonging to something that wasn't. Her name was Ilaren, communications officer, found clutching a data slate even as the building collapsed around her. When the sweep team pulled her out, she looked directly at the camera, directly at me, though she couldn't possibly know I was watching, and she said in perfect, unaccented English, "If you're going to kill me, at least finish it quickly." The sweep team waited for orders. I should have told them to execute her. That was protocol. Enemy combatants in hostile territory. No facilities for prisoners. No reason to waste resources on transport. Just a clean shot and move on. but I didn't. "Bring her up," I said. "I want her interrogated." Chen looked at me, surprised. "Sir, protocol states—" "I know what protocol states, Lieutenant. Bring her up." They loaded her onto a transport, strapped her down, sedated her for the trip, and I sat in my command station staring at the viewport, wondering why I'd given that order, wondering if it was mercy, or if I just wanted to look one of them in the eye. I wanted to see what I'd been burning. I wanted to confirm they were people or convince myself they weren't. I didn't know which answer I was hoping for. They brought her to the detention level. The medical team patched her up enough to keep her alive. Not comfortable, but alive. I went to see her that night. The detention cells were small, transparent walls on 3 sides, nowhere to hide, nowhere to pretend you had privacy, just exposure and observation and the constant reminder that you were a specimen now, not a person. Ilaren sat on the metal bench, back against the wall, staring at nothing. Her wounds were bandaged, her breathing was steady, but she looked hollowed out, like something essential had been scooped out of her and what remained was just going through the motions of existing. I understood that feeling. "You speak English," I said. She didn't look at me. "We studied you. Before the war, I tried to understand you, though maybe understanding would prevent conflict. A bitter sound that might have been laughter. We were wrong. We offered terms. Your government refused. You offered subjugation. We refused slavery." Now she looked at me. "Is there a difference in your language?" I didn't answer. She turned back to staring at nothing. At the wall, at the grey metal that was all she'd see for however long she survived. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Information? Codes? Locations of survivors?" She laughed again, that same broken sound. "Kill them all, Commander. There's nothing left worth saving anyway." "I want you to translate transmissions," I said. "We've intercepted communications. Need verification of content. So I'm to help you murder my people more efficiently. You're to follow orders, like everyone else." "Even you?" The question hit harder than it should have. "Yes. And that makes it acceptable. That you were told to do it." I looked at her, at those 2 large eyes, at the intelligence behind them, the accusation. "It makes it necessary," I said. "No, Commander. It makes it easy. There's a difference." I left without responding, but her words followed me back to my quarters, echoed in my head while I tried to sleep. It makes it easy. And she was right. It did. That's what orders were for, so you didn't have to think. I didn't have to ask. Just follow the chain of command and let someone else carry the moral weight. Except the weight didn't disappear just because you weren't looking at it. It just accumulated, silent and heavy, until one day you realized you'd been buried alive and didn't even notice. They brought the intercepted transmissions to my station the next morning. Audio files, dozens of them, all in Rethari, all flagged as potentially tactical. "Translation algorithms can't process the dialect," Chen explained. "Regional variations. We need a native speaker." "Bring Ilaren," I ordered. They escorted her to my station, hands bound, 2 armed guards flanking her. Unnecessary, probably. She looked too tired to fight, too broken to care. But protocol demanded precautions. She stood in front of my console while I played the first transmission. Static then voices. Rethari voices speaking urgently in their clicking, melodic language. "What are they saying?" I asked. Ilaren listened. Her expression didn't change. "They're requesting evacuation coordinates, civilian transport, mostly children and elderly." I made a note. "Military assets?" "No, just people trying not to die." I played the next transmission. More voices, more urgency. "Supply request," Ilaren translated. "Medical supplies, food, water. Their distribution center was destroyed in your last strike." "Military value?" Only if you consider starving to death a tactical advantage. I played another, and another, and another. Each one is the same. Civilians requesting help, refugees looking for safe zones, families searching for separated members, medical teams calling for resources. Not a single military communication in the entire batch. I listened to them all, made notes, catalogued them according to location and priority, and told myself it was intelligence gathering. That understanding enemy communication patterns was strategically valuable, that every data point mattered in the larger picture. But the truth was simpler and more terrible. I was listening to people beg for their lives, and I was taking notes so we could kill them more efficiently. "Do you even hear them?" Ilaren asked after the 20th transmission. I looked up from my console. "What?" "The voices. Do you hear them? Or is it just noise to you?" "I hear enough to follow orders." "That's not what I asked." I saved the file, closed the program. "Your role is to translate, not to question. And your role is to kill, not to think." She leaned forward slightly. The guards tensed. "Tell me, Commander, when you sleep, do you hear them? All those voices you're so efficiently cataloguing." "Dismissed," I said to the guards. "Return her to detention." They led her away. She didn't resist, didn't look back. But her question stayed with me. "Do you hear them?" "Yes." That was the problem. I heard every single one. The transmissions continued for weeks. Every day they brought Ilaren to my station. Every day she translated the desperate communications of people trying to survive. And every day I passed the information to command, who used it to target the evacuation points, the supply routes, the safe zones. We weren't just fighting a war. We were hunting survivors, making sure nothing escaped, no loose ends, no future problems, total elimination. I stopped calling it a strategy, stopped pretending it was anything other than what it was: extermination. Ilaren never commented, just translated, answered questions when asked, returned to her cell when dismissed. But sometimes between transmissions she would look at me. Just look. Not with hatred, not with accusation, just observation. Like she was studying me, trying to understand what kind of person could do this and still function. I wanted to tell her I didn't know either, that I'd stopped recognizing myself months ago, that the man in this uniform was someone else entirely, someone I used to be before orders became easier than conscience. But I didn't say anything, just played the next transmission and waited for her to translate another plea for mercy that would be used to deliver death instead. It was during the 37th session that something changed. The transmission was different, not urgent, not desperate, just quiet. A woman's voice, singing. "What is she saying?" I asked. Ilaren listened for a long moment. Her expression softened. Something that might have been pain crossed her face. "It's a lullaby," she said quietly, "a mother singing to her child. Traditional, very old." She paused. "She's telling him that the stars will protect them. That morning will come, that everything will be all right." The singing continued, soft, gentle, a melody that transcended language. "Where is this transmission coming from?" I asked. Chen checked the coordinates. "Sector 12, refugee convoy, moving northwest toward the mountain range. Military assessment. Negligible. Thermal signatures suggest mostly civilians. No defensive capabilities detected." I stared at the tactical display, at the convoy icon, at the neat little designation that represented hundreds of people. Maybe thousands, including a mother singing to her child. "Flag it for targeting," I said. The words came out automatically, following procedure, following orders. But something inside me fractured when I said them. Ilaren stood very still. "That's a refugee convoy, Commander. Unarmed civilians." Flagged for assessment, I corrected. Command will determine priority. You know what they'll determine. That's not my decision. Yes, it is. She stepped closer. The guards moved, but I waved them back. Every order you follow is a decision. Every transmission you pass along is a choice. You tell yourself it's duty, but it's cowardice. You're just afraid to admit you're the one pulling the trigger. Return her to detention, I said. You hear them, Commander. I know you do. You hear every voice, every plea, every prayer. Her voice cracked. And you kill them anyway. So tell me, what does that make you? Guards! They dragged her out. She didn't struggle, just looked at me with those two large eyes, that terrible seeing expression, and I sat alone in my station, listening to a mother's lullaby on repeat, and tried to convince myself I was just following orders, just doing my duty, just being a good soldier. Command approved the strike 6 hours later. Target designated Priority Alpha. Immediate elimination authorized. I passed the coordinates to the targeting station, watched the icon on my display, gave the order. The convoy disappeared. 347 people, gone in seconds. Acceptable losses, strategic necessity, efficient execution. All the words we use to make murder sound professional. I pulled up the audio file afterward. I don't know why. Some kind of punishment, maybe. Some need to face what I've done. The lullaby played, that soft, gentle voice promising safety and morning and stars that protected. Then static. Then silence. I sat in my command chair and stared at nothing. At everything. At the empty space where 347 people used to exist. And something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet crack. Like ice giving way under weight it was never meant to carry. I made it to my quarters before I vomited, made it to the floor before I collapsed, and I lay there on the cold metal, shaking while that lullaby played over and over in my head. The stars will protect you, morning will come, everything will be all right. Lies, all lies. The stars didn't protect anyone. Morning came with more orders, and nothing would ever be all right again. But she'd believed it. That mother. She'd sung those words to her child, trying to comfort, trying to hope, and I'd burned them both from orbit, following orders, doing my duty, being a good soldier. Command commended me. They sent an official communication. Exemplary execution of assigned objectives, operational efficiency exceeding expected parameters, recommended for promotion and expanded command authority. I read it 3 times before I understood what it was saying. They were praising me for killing a mother and child, promoting me for efficiency in genocide. I deleted the message, then I recovered it, then deleted it again, like that would change anything. Like that would make it less true. I stopped sleeping after the convoy. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that lullaby. Saw tactical displays with icons that used to be people. Watched cities burn in that beautiful, terrible red glow. So I stayed awake, worked triple shifts. I volunteered for extra duties. Anything to avoid silence, avoid thought. Avoid the growing realization that I'd become exactly what I'd always told myself I'd never be. A monster with official authorization. Chen noticed. Commander, you need rest. You're running yourself into the ground. I'm fine. You're not. Medical could prescribe something to help you sleep. I said I'm fine, Lieutenant. He didn't push, just exchanged glances with the other officers. The kind of look that said, he's breaking, give him space. But I wasn't breaking, I'd already broken. What they were seeing was just the aftermath, the pieces trying to pretend they were still whole. I started keeping private logs, against regulations, against security protocols, against everything I'd been trained to do. But I needed to say it. I needed to record what we were really doing, what I was really doing, needed some kind of testimony, some kind of evidence that I'd understood, even if I hadn't stopped. Day 247. Orbital operations continue. Targeted 17 civilian infrastructure points. Command classifies them as military adjacent. They're hospitals, schools, water treatment facilities. We're not fighting soldiers anymore. We're killing the possibility of survival. Day 251. The Fleet Admiral visited. Congratulations to me personally. Said I'm a model officer. Said the war will end soon because of people like me. He's right. The war will end because we're killing everyone who could fight it. Day 258. Ilaren translated another transmission today. A father looking for his daughter. She was 7. Separated during an evacuation. I flagged the search zone for targeting. I'm not sure I'm human anymore. I recorded them in the dead of night, whispered them into my personal log, encrypted them so no one else would find them. Not because I was afraid of punishment, but because I was afraid of what it would mean if they agreed with me. If they said, yes, you're just following orders. Yes, this is acceptable. Yes, this is what we do. Because then there would be no excuse, no justification, no way to pretend we were the heroes of this story. We'd just be killers, following orders, making it someone else's moral burden, making it easy. Ilaren noticed the change. During one of the translation sessions, she stopped mid-sentence and just looked at me. "You're different," she said. "Focus on the translation. You used to believe it, the orders, the mission. Now you just follow them. That's my job. No, your job was to kill us. You're good at it." She tilted her head. "But you've stopped pretending it's righteous. That's new." I didn't respond. "You wanted mercy once," she continued. "When you brought me here, instead of killing me, you wanted to believe there was something worth saving. In me, in yourself, in this whole terrible thing." She paused. "Now you just want to stop feeling. You don't know what I want." "Yes, I do. Because I see it every day. You come in here. You listen to my people beg for their lives. You take notes. You pass it to your commanders. And then you go back to your quarters and hate yourself." She leaned forward. "But you don't stop. You never stop. Because stopping would mean admitting you had a choice all along." "I don't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice, Commander. You're just afraid of what yours says about you." The guards moved to restrain her, but I waved them off. "What do you want from me?" I asked quietly. "Confession? Apology? What would satisfy you?" "Nothing. Because nothing you say will bring them back. Nothing you feel will undo what you've done." She looked at me with something that might have been pity. "I don't want anything from you, Commander. You've already given everything. Your humanity, your conscience, your soul. What's left to take?" I stared at her, at this enemy, this prisoner, this person who saw me more clearly than I saw myself. "Return her to detention," I whispered. They led her away, and I sat alone in my station, surrounded by tactical displays and communication logs and all the tools we use to make murder efficient. And I realized she was right. I'd given everything, piece by piece, order by order, until there was nothing left but this hollow thing wearing my uniform, going through motions, following procedures, waiting for someone to tell me what to do next. Because thinking for myself was too hard, too painful, too dangerous. Better to just follow orders. Better to just let someone else decide. Better to just be a good soldier. Even if being a good soldier meant being a terrible human. The last sanctuary was discovered on day 287. Intelligence had been tracking population movements for weeks. Thermal signatures, communication patterns, movement vectors. They all pointed to one location, a valley in the northern mountain range, naturally shielded, difficult to reach, perfect for hiding. Command estimated 15,000 Rathari had gathered there, maybe more. All the survivors who'd managed to escape our bombardments, our sweeps, our systematic elimination of every population center on the planet. The file landed on my console with a simple designation: Target Omega. Priority absolute. Execute immediately. I stared at those words for a long time. 15,000 people, the last of their kind in this world, gathered in one place because they had nowhere else to go, and I was being ordered to kill them all. Commander, Chen was waiting. Targeting solutions are ready, awaiting your authorization. I pulled up the tactical data, reviewed the reconnaissance images, saw the makeshift shelters, the organized camps, the signs of people trying to build something, anything, even in the shadow of extinction. No military installations, no weapon emplacements, no defensive capabilities, just refugees, families, survivors. "Sir," Chen prompted, "command is waiting for confirmation." My hand hovered over the authorization key. This was it, the final order, the last strike. After this, there would be nothing left, no one left, just a dead world and the ashes of a species we'd decided didn't deserve to exist. And all I had to do was press a button, follow orders, be a good soldier. Simple, easy, clean. I opened a channel to command. "Authorization status?" the duty officer asked. "Target assessment shows civilian population, non-combatant. Request confirmation of strike priority." A pause, then a different voice, higher authority. "Commander Vex, Target Omega is designated absolute priority. Nature of the inhabitants is irrelevant. Execute immediately or be relieved of command and charged with insubordination. Acknowledge." I closed my eyes, saw that mother, that convoy, that lullaby. Saw all the orders I'd followed, all the cities I'd burned, all the voices I'd silenced. Saw Ilaren's eyes, that terrible seeing expression. You wanted mercy once, now you just want to stop feeling. "Commander Vex, acknowledge the order immediately." I opened my eyes. I looked at the tactical display, at the valley, at the 15,000 lives waiting there in the dark, at the choice I'd always had and never wanted to admit. "Acknowledged," I said. My voice sounded dead. "Executing Target Omega." I entered the authorization code, transmitted the firing solution, watched the strike package deploy from the fleet, watched the missiles arc down through the atmosphere, beautiful against the red sky, like falling stars. The valley lit up, white, then orange, then red. 15,000 thermal signatures flickered, flared, extinguished, gone. "Target Omega neutralized," Chen reported. "Bombardment successful, no survivors detected." "Confirmed," I said. Command came back online. "Excellent work, Commander. Operation complete. Stand by for new orders." I switched off the channel. I stood up from my station, removed my insignia, placed it on the console. "Sir?" Chen looked confused. "Is something wrong?" "No," I said. "Everything is exactly as ordered." I walked out, left the command deck, headed toward the airlock level. No one stopped me. Maybe they thought I was going to inspect something. Maybe they just didn't care. It didn't matter. I found Ilaren in her cell. She was praying, or what looked like praying, hands pressed together, eyes closed, whispering something in Rithari that I couldn't understand. She stopped when I entered, looked up. "It's done," I said. She didn't ask what, I didn't need to. She could probably feel it, that final serving, that absolute ending. "All of them?" she asked quietly. "Yes." She nodded slowly. "Then there's nothing left." "No!" We stood in silence. Two people at the end of the world. Nothing left to say, nothing left to do. "I'm going to the airlock," I told her. "I wanted you to know. Before, so you wouldn't wonder. Why tell me?" "Because you were right. About everything. About the choices. About what I became." I looked at her. "You deserve to know someone finally understood." Ilaren studied me for a long moment. Then she said, "It doesn't matter, Commander. Understanding doesn't undo anything. It just makes you aware of what you are. And what am I? A ghost. Same as me. Same as everyone you burned. We're all just ghosts now. I nodded. Yeah, I think you're right. I turned to leave. Her voice stopped me. Commander, when you step through that airlock, will it be punishment or escape? I thought about that, about all the orders I'd followed, all the voices I'd silenced, all the weight I'd been carrying. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe both. Then I hope you find what you're looking for. I won't. But thank you. I left her there. I walked through the corridors, past crew members who saluted, past stations that hummed with normal operations, past all the machinery of war that would continue without me. The airlock was empty, quiet, just a door and a window and the infinite dark beyond. I stood in front of it. I looked out at the stars. They were beautiful, cold and distant and indifferent to everything that happened beneath them. I thought about the mother's lullaby. The stars will protect you. They didn't. They never did. The stars just watched while we burned worlds and called it progress. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the stars didn't protect anyone. Maybe we were supposed to protect each other, and we'd failed. Failed so completely, so absolutely, so efficiently. I opened the inner airlock door, stepped inside, sealed it behind me. My hand rested on the outer door control. One press. That's all it would take. One choice, one action that was mine alone. Not an order, not a directive, not someone else's decision. Mine. I thought about all the choices I could have made, all the orders I could have refused, all the voices I could have heard differently. Thought about being a better person, a braver soldier, someone who chose conscience over comfort. But I wasn't that person, never had been, just someone who followed orders until there was nothing left of himself to follow anything. You were right, Ilaren, I whispered to the empty chamber. I burned ghosts, and now I am one. I pressed the button. The outer door opened. The vacuum pulled me out into the dark, and the last thing I saw was stars. Cold, beautiful, indifferent, watching, always watching, never protecting. This is Elaren's testimony. They found his body 3 hours later. Standard recovery protocol for decompression incidents. They brought him back to medical school, logged the death as equipment malfunction, accidental exposure, no investigation, no questions. Just another casualty of a war that was already over. I heard about it from the guards. They thought I'd want to know, though maybe I'd feel some satisfaction, some vindication. The monster who killed my people had killed himself. Justice, in a way. But I felt nothing, just emptiness, like looking at a hole where something used to be and finding only absence. They kept me alive for 2 more weeks, processing, bureaucracy, deciding what to do with the last Rithari prisoner now that there were no more Rithari to exchange me for. Eventually, they released me, not out of kindness, out of irrelevance. It didn't matter anymore. My people were gone. My world was ash. Keeping me imprisoned served no strategic purpose. So they gave me a shuttle, enough supplies for a few months, sent me to a neutral station with the other war refugees, the displaced, the forgotten, the ones who survived when everyone else didn't. Before I left, they gave me his personal effects, standard procedure. Next of kin couldn't be located. I was the last person who'd interacted with him, so I got a box of his things, his insignia, his data pad, his encrypted logs. I listened to them, all of them, every whispered confession, every moment of doubt, every realization that came too late to matter. He'd known. Toward the end, he'd understood exactly what he was doing, what he'd become, and he'd done it anyway. Not because he believed it was right, but because stopping was harder than continuing, because thinking was more painful than obeying, Because being a good soldier was easier than being a good person. I listened to his final log, recorded the night before Target Omega. His voice was so quiet. I'm so tired. I don't know who I am anymore. Don't know if I ever was the person I thought I was. Maybe this is who I always was, someone who follows orders until there's nothing left to follow. Tomorrow I'll kill the last of them. 15,000 people who just wanted to survive. And I'll do it because I was told to. Not because it's right. Not because it's necessary. Just because it's an order. And I'm so tired of carrying this. So tired of pretending there's a difference between duty and murder. Between following orders and choosing evil. But I'll do it anyway. Because that's what I am. What I've always been. A weapon. A tool. A good soldier. And when it's done, when there's nothing left to burn, maybe I can finally stop. The recording ended. I sat in my quarters on the refugee station, holding his data pad, and felt something crack inside me. Not rage, not grief, just comprehension. He'd been broken as any of us, maybe more, because he'd had to become the instrument of his own destruction. Had to carve out his humanity piece by piece, to follow orders that required him to stop being human. And when there was nothing left to carve away, he'd just stopped. Because a tool without purpose is just debris. And he'd completed his purpose. Burned everything, everyone, including himself. They asked me to give testimony for the War Crimes Tribunal, for the historical record. For whatever justice looked like when everyone guilty was dead or distant. I told them everything. About the translations, about the transmissions, about Commander Arlen Vex and the final order he followed. They took notes, recorded my statement, added it to the archive of atrocities we'd committed against each other. Did he show remorse? They asked. Yes. Did he try to stop it? No. Did he believe he had a choice? I thought about that, about all the conversations, about his eyes at the end, that hollow, empty expression. He believed he didn't, I said, but he was wrong. He always had a choice. He just chose obedience over conscience, order over morality, duty over humanity. And what would you say to others? To prevent this from happening again? I looked at the tribunal, at the officials recording history, at the people trying to extract meaning from meaningless violence. I'd say this, I told them. Orders don't absolve you. Following commands doesn't erase responsibility. Duty isn't a shield against guilt. I paused. Commander Vex followed every order he was given, never questioned, never refused. He was the perfect soldier. I met their eyes. And that made him the perfect monster. I keep his logs. I don't know why. Some kind of penance, maybe. Some need to bear witness. To remember what we did to each other, what we became in the name of victory. Sometimes, late at night, I listen to them again. Hear his voice growing quieter, more distant, more hollow with each entry. Hear him losing himself one order at a time. And I wonder if it could have been different. If he'd refused, if he'd said no, if he'd chosen conscience over comfort, would it have mattered? Would it have saved my people? Or would command have just found another commander, another weapon, another good soldier to follow orders without question? I don't know. All I know is this. Commander Arlen Vex burned my world, killed my people, followed every order he was given with perfect efficiency. And when the stars burned out and there was nothing left to destroy, he was still waiting for one last command, still obeying, still following, still being a good soldier, right up to the moment he stepped into the void. I hope he found something out there, in that final darkness, some answers, some peace, some understanding that made it all mean something. But I don't think he did. I think he just found silence, the same silence he'd created, the same emptiness, the same absence where something used to be. And maybe that's justice, of a kind. Not the kind that brings anyone back, not the kind that heals anything, just the kind that ensures the guilty carry their crimes into whatever comes next. The stars don't protect us. They never did. They just watch while we destroy each other, and when we're done, they keep watching, cold, beautiful, indifferent, forever. He followed every order, and when the stars burned out, he was still waiting for one last command.